Hey y'all, and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be talking about the ATI TEAS comprehensive exam and how I studied for the test. But at the end of this video, I'm going to be putting some practice questions. The first thing that I want to recommend when you do take the ATI TEAS exam is really figure out a way that you know how to study, or that you really like to study, or that helps you learn, because once you take this exam, ATI is not going away. Through the nursing program, we have several times where we're going to be utilizing ATI, so the books that they provide are super helpful. They kind of break down the fundamentals and give you the basics. So if you do want to learn a way to study, or if you don't know if you don't currently know how you study, I would recommend figuring that out prior to studying for the test. So if you like to take notes, if you like to read, if you like to draw pictures, I'd really recommend something to understand something, to really ingrain whatever material you're learning into your head, kind of learn best and kind of apply that knowledge to the questions on the test. Okay, so to start off, I really recommend that you get a resource that coincides with the test. So ATI TEAS makes their study resources available to you. So there is a price that you have to pay. So the package that I purchased, I just looked it up recently, it's $90, and I got the basic study package. There are other packages available, but this one just worked best for me and what I needed. So that package comes with a book, so an ATI TEAS study book, and it also comes with 2 practice exams. What's really helpful about those practice exams is that you can take them, and then they'll give you a comprehensive report of all the questions that you got wrong and that you need to really focus on and hone in on. So once I took that practice study test, that was the first thing that I did. And it came back with, okay, you need to study science, you need to study English, you need to study this, that, or whatever else you need to study. And I kind of just grabbed those things and I really focused on and zoned in on those things, because it seemed like I was doing pretty okay on the rest of the subjects that I didn't get marked off for or marked down for. And so that's like one resource that I really recommend. Another thing is that with those practice tests, it comes with a lot of rationales. So it'll explain to you exactly why you got the question wrong. Another book that I purchased though was the ATI TEAS Mom Matrix Secrets. Oh, and all my notes are on my iPad, that's why I'm looking down. Another book that I purchased, which is highly recommended, is the ATI TEAS Mom Matrix, I think it's how you say it, Mom Matrix Secrets. It also comes with a code where you can take practice questions online, but it's super helpful in breaking down things. So what I really recommend for these tests is that you really understand the fundamental knowledge that's behind the question, which seems pretty obvious. However, it's a lot of material. And so I think sometimes people just focus on the practice questions rather than focusing on the material itself. I think if you focus on the material itself, it'll really get you so far. Because once you understand something, it kind of like clicks, like, okay, this goes with this, and then that's why this is the answer. So, okay, yeah, back to the Mom Matrix Secrets. They have really good practice questions. But I would say that out of all of the books that I purchased, I would say that these questions were the easiest questions, and they were the least like the test itself. So I felt like the questions were not really scenario based like the test itself was. I also purchased another book. It was called the ATI TEAS Trivium, and this book was really great. I thought this one was the most like the test itself. The questions were challenging. I didn't read any of the study material, I just did the practice questions in this, which is one thing that I would highly recommend. Go through as many practice questions as possible. If you can purchase books, if you can get books from friends, if you can go to the library and get books, I would just recommend that you do as many practice questions as possible and ensure that you read the rationales behind them. This one, like I mentioned before, was really good at practice questions, and I felt like it was the most like the ATI TEAS test, so I would really recommend the Trivium book. And another book that I just did the practice questions alone from was the Accepted Inc. ATI TEAS book. This one is very good as well as at practice questions, so I just went through those practice questions at the end of me studying. So I went through the whole ATI TEAS book. I read every explanation. I did all the practice questions in the beginning of the book as well as the comprehensive practice test at the end of the book. That I went back and I did the ATI TEAS Trivium and the ATI TEAS Accepted Inc. I did both of those practice questions, cumulative tests at the back of those books just to see how I would do, and I felt like it was very helpful. Okay, so second category that I used to study was one, obviously I came on YouTube and I did a lot of research myself just on people that had the experience of taking the ATI TEAS itself and what books to study, which is the reason why I got the books that I chose. And then the other thing is that based on the recommendations, I went and I looked up these specific people and they helped me so much. So the TEAS is obviously made up of grammar, it's made up of English, science, and within science, there's anatomy, physiology, and chemistry. And then it's also some basic math skills, which I found that all of the math on the test is actually easier than all of the study and practice questions that I did on math. So not saying that you shouldn't focus on math, however, it's a lot easier on the test, at least I found, than a lot of other people that I talked to that took the test. They found also that it was a lot easier on the test rather than what we studied for. So that was kind of reassuring, and they give you a calculator as well, which is also good to know. But getting back to YouTube, some of the resources I used was Carolyn McAllister. She is great. She really helped me because grammar and English was not my strong suit at all. And she really helped me to kind of like, one, read paragraphs more quickly. There you go with the grammar. She taught me to read paragraphs more quickly, what to focus on when you are reading a paragraph. She told me what should come before the other, how to use punctuation, all kinds of things like that, which kind of like wrap in and really assist you with that test, because you need to be quick on that test and you need to be obviously accurate. So she helps me out a lot as far as grammar and English goes. Science with Susanna, Science with Susanna, Science with Susanna. She helps all with anatomy and physiology. She kind of breaks down each system of the body and she informs you of like, okay, this is how it connects, this is how it works. If you haven't taken anatomy and physiology in a while, which I hadn't at the time because I had taken it a few years prior, then you really want to just go over with her all of the body systems so that you can kind of figure those out prior to taking the test, because the questions on the test about anatomy and physiology are not easy questions. They are hard questions and you're going to want to know some in-depth things. As far as math goes, I used Brandon Kraft. He also has a Facebook group, and the Facebook group as well as his videos helps me significantly. I myself am not good at math at all, and going into the test I felt very confident about every kind of math, either equation or math problem that there was going to be on the test. I felt very confident about excuse me, that stuff going into it. So would highly recommend Brandon Kraft as well for math. And then Tyler Dewitt. I did not find him on any other person's YouTube video. However, he was the best at explaining chemistry. I had never taken chemistry a day in my life because it's not required for my schooling. However, he broke it down so easily and made it so easy for me to kind of just breeze through it and even know the answers. There were a few questions. I know some people say that their version of the test is heavily loaded with chemistry questions. Mine wasn't. There were a few on them, but I could almost guarantee that every chemistry question on that test I got right because of Tyler Dewitt. So if you're watching this, Tyler Dewitt, thank you so much. But the apps that I did use were going to be the TEAS Mastery ATI Testing V6. And the other app that I used was the Nursing School Pocket Prep app. And that one I know for sure. It's a purple and white app, and it's literally amazing. You can do practice questions anytime you need to. If you're just like studying or waiting or whatever you're doing, you can literally just pop these out on your phone and just start doing a few of them. They have I think you have to pay for them. I'm not sure how much they were. I probably paid, I don't know. Out of all of these things that I'm listing out, I probably paid upwards of probably like $200 or $300, but it was all worth it because you have to think about it. Like, yes, it sounds like a lot of money at the time, but it is an investment. So I think I paid maybe like, I don't know, like $20 or $30 maybe for the bundles of these questions, but it was for a few months that they let you use it. And they are so great. I mean, if I was like sitting down somewhere, I would just pop out my questions and start doing them. And it's really, really great because they provide rationales with them as well. So I really, really appreciated those questions. Whoever made those apps, thank you so much. And then lastly, but not least, the Facebook groups are so great. So if you type in online and you do ATI TEAS Facebook group or ATI TEAS math, ATI TEAS, science, whatever subject that you're looking for, they will post like questions all the time. If you have a question, you can post it in those Facebook groups. There's a ton of support. So if there's nobody that you know that's currently taking the test in your area, but you do want to go ahead and pursue, or you need some support from somebody, you can go ahead and join those Facebook groups and they can help you out. And I felt like it helped me significantly because, for example, Brendan, ruining my moment. For example, Brendan Kraft has his own Facebook group and he will answer questions for you if you have them in there. There are so many resources available to you. They also post practice questions in there, which I cannot recommend enough for you to do as many practice questions as possible and read all the rationales associated with them, because they will help you tremendously. Like, it'll help the brain flow, like it'll help the ideas flow, and it kind of helps you like link things together when you see other questions on tests. That's how I think I preach it so much, because that's how I kind of learn from reading practice questions, because it helps you kind of think about things. It's like, okay, how does this work? How does that work? And then it provides a rationale. So when you're on the test, you're not stuck like, okay, well, I've never seen this before. I don't know what this is. But the more you read things, the more you see things, the more it kind of clicks in your head. So really recommend that as well. If you can, and if you have a lot of time, I would recommend that you kind of take as much time out of your day as possible to study for this test. I probably studied upwards of maybe like 100 or so hours for this test, just because I was so dedicated to passing the test on my first try, which, I mean, I didn't get the greatest score. However, I'm lucky and I'm grateful that I got into nursing school with the score that I got, which I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I got an 82, I think, 82. I'll put it right here if I remember. And so, yes, I recommend study, as well as when you do take the test. I guess now you are able to proctor it at home. If you don't feel comfortable taking the test at home, I personally didn't, so I went to my school and they had a proctor there. I just felt like if I took the test at home, that if I didn't end up passing the test, which this is probably not the best way to think, but if I didn't end up passing the test, I was just gonna feel like kind of like bad energy in my house. So I just felt like it was best if I just took the test somewhere else. And then also, there was just less distractions. It's like a controlled environment when you're at school. It is 4 hours long, the test, so prepare for that. I think some proctors allow you to take a 15 or 10-minute break. My proctor did not allow me to do that. They just had me take the test straight. But those are kind of the tips that I have for you if you are planning to take the ATI TEAS anytime soon. If you have any questions for me, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. And if you made it this far throughout the video, please like, comment, and subscribe.